Live. It's going live. And we're live.
Oh, we are. I see.
Yes, we are live. It's amazing how far technology has come that we're able to do things like this, right?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Because when we were coming up, this was not available to us.
It was not. Yeah. So there is some greatness that has come along with this level of technology. And here's the thing too, Faith. So, we're so used to having our little girlfriend chats over the phone. And so it's just going to be you and I hearing each other on this. So we're going to have to remember that there's people watching as we start talking.
Thank you for reminding me.
Listen, I just, yeah. When you have one of your besties, listen. So, well, welcome everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in. I know people are going to gradually kind of fall in to watch this live DEEVA Chat. Of course, everyone can also watch this on the replay on the Women on the Rise International Incorporated Facebook page and the Women on the Rise group on Facebook, as well as our YouTube page. So definitely make sure that you check out for that. Hi, Miss Miriam. I love when we see all of our divas tuning in to watch the chat. So definitely, if you guys have any questions or comments throughout this stream, please write it in the comments so that we can respond. So you guys, I am so excited to be introducing my friend and fellow diva, Mrs. Faith Joyner. So Faith Joyner is a relational trauma recovery counselor dedicated to helping women understand their power to create and maintain thriving relationships by redefining love on their terms. She is an advocate for building healthy relationships and uses her professional experience and personal knowledge of heartbreak to help women cultivate loving and fulfilling relationships with their partner, family, friends, and most importantly, with themselves. She accomplishes this by hosting her podcast, For Love Only, Courageous Conversations, which is, let me tell you, one of the best podcasts that is out, okay? You would think there's a team of 20 putting this thing together all the time, but listen, it's amazing. Where she and her guests share how to have courageous conversations with the people they love. In her personal time, Faith likes to read and watch suspense movies. She loves the beach and considers herself a beach snob. Okay, we got to get back to that. What is a beach snob? But we'll go back.
Sure.
Her favorite quote is from the courageous Nina Simone. You've got to learn to leave the table when love's no longer being served. Listen.
Well, Nina.
Listen. Come all the way on. Love it. Okay, so Diva, so what is this beach snob thing about? What is that?
People can be snobby over certain things or colors or food, there's the foodies and, so I'm really particular about beaches, places that people call beaches. I'm like, that's not a beach. So I'm really particular in where I like to spend my beach time.
Now, does this have to do with the fact that you were in the military and you've had the opportunity to travel abroad and see some very beautiful beaches? Is that part of what this is about?
Yes.
Yes, I figured as much. That's how.
Yes. The opportunity to travel to 11 different countries, and so it has been amazing. And yes, that's where I get my beach snobbiness from, definitely.
And thinking about that, Faith, so when you went overseas, when you were stationed over there, that's where you met the love of your life. Is that right? Yeah. And so how long have the two of you been married now?
Well, we've been married for 16 years now.
For 16 years. Okay. And you guys have like the most beautiful relationship. I think I just told you recently that you and Jamal's relationship and Sierra and Russell Wilson's marriage, for both of the marriages, they actually give me hope, right?
Aww.
Such a beautiful, beautiful relationship. And it's amazing. And it's one to definitely model after. But your relationship has come with some challenges, right?
Definitely.
And I've always admired how even through your husband and dealing with his health, how he has always still remained that pillar in the household, right? He's still very much that man in the home, even though you find yourself sometimes being in the caregiver role. Can you talk a bit more about that?
Yeah. So let me just say this, like before Jamal was diagnosed, we were married. We had already settled into the.
Talk about that. Talk about that.
Talk about what?
Talk about, okay, you guys got married. You're in this relationship, and before any health concerns came up, kind of give us a picture of what that looks like, so that we can kind of prepare for when you know the challenge came and how it presented itself, and how you then knew you were going to have to make this transition in your role as wife.
Sure. Well, first, I know we got 45 minutes, but can I just stop to say thank you for allowing me to be here? You just went straight to like.
I know. I'm sorry. Okay. Yes. Like
Thank
I
you.
Earlier, right? But yes, absolutely.
Thank you. I appreciate you for allowing me to speak to your audience, especially, Miss a Woman Who Means Business 2020. Yes. I appreciate you allowing me to be on your platform, ma'am. So
thank you. I'm excited to have you. So thank you.
Absolutely. So yeah, so Jamal and I, we met each other in Germany. We were both stationed in Germany, and he did ask me out once and wanted to take the relationship further. And I was like, no, I didn't want to do that. At the time, I was just really focusing on myself. I had just started my own healing journey. I had recently divorced from the first marriage. So I was like, let me figure me out.
Right.
And we can get together. So eventually we got together, and every time I talk about this, it just makes me giddy. Just
a little smile coming on your face.
I'm trying not to smile.
Yes, love it.
So eventually we got together, and it was just, we fell for each other hard. Like we fell for each other hard. So we both, in the short span that we were together before we got married, because we got married 8 months into us dating. So in the short amount of time, we had been through a lot with each other's families, because his grandfather passed away. And so I went down to, help him deal with that, and so forth and so forth. So there was a lot of things that we went through in our relationship that let us know that we were really down for one another. Wow. And I don't subscribe to that whole ride or die chick thing, right? I don't believe in that. I think it's stupid. I think it's cute, to say in music and stuff like that, but that's not real life, right? I think we should ride and live for each other, period, right? So we got together, we got married in June of 2004, and he got orders in September.
Okay.
In 2004 to go to Iraq. Mm-hmm. And so he started training September, October. He left in November to go to Iraq. And then when he got to Iraq, a few weeks in, he started having symptoms of multiple sclerosis. So this is, we haven't even made it a year of being married yet, right? So he started having symptoms, and he came back. He was in denial about what he was going through, right? Because Jamal's 6'4", he's very strong, he's down now due to the MS. But when he was in the military, he was really muscular and big, and walk like this, you know? And he was in denial about what was happening to him.
Right.
And so it wasn't until we got back to the States and I was stationed at the Pentagon that we went to the doctor and we did several tests because they couldn't find out what was wrong with him. Because he was losing his eyesight, and eventually he did lose his eyesight. He was legally blind for several years. He was numb. He could not walk. He couldn't put on his clothes. Like I had to help him put on, like there was so much stuff going on. And then he finally got the diagnosis that he had progressive multiple sclerosis.
Wow.
Yeah. So that changed the dynamic of our relationship a lot, because prior to the diagnosis, even though he was experiencing symptoms, we were still traveling together. You know, he was still able to drive. We were just very active. As far as like traveling, because both of us love to travel. So when the diagnosis came, a lot of things changed in our relationship. And just because those things changed, the core of my man didn't change.
Right. But you were cognizant of that.
Exactly. Well, because we spent a lot of time together. We spent a lot of time getting to know each other, even though it was 8 months and then we got married. We spent a lot of time getting to know each other. And we had the first and second and third arguments within that time. So I knew how he would act as my husband.
Yeah.
Because of how he was acting as my boyfriend.
Right.
And the same thing with him. So there's always been a level of respect and love that I have for him. MS does not make him who he is. Jamal makes, he's a very special man. He's brilliant. Like just like beyond anybody I've ever known. He's so smart and he's so wise. He's wise beyond his years. And just because he had MS, that didn't take away from his character. So that's why I still saw him as my man. And to be honest, that actually got me into trouble a lot because I remember him as this strong man, and I'd be like, you ain't that sick. Get up. You know what I'm saying? And I was wrong for that. Because I wasn't giving him the time to grieve. I wasn't giving him the time to adjust to this new lifestyle.
Yes.
He was depressed because, the military was taken from him. Well, it wasn't taken from him, but that's the way he saw it, right? He didn't have a career anymore. He wasn't independent. He had to depend on me. Like he went through a lot. And I was just like, suck it up. You know what I'm saying? And I shouldn't have did that. I was immature in that way. And I was not considerate of what he was going through because he was a man,
So at what point were you able to identify that, for one? And then what steps did you then take to make sure that you were supporting him from that mental mindset standpoint?
So it took me dealing with myself. I had to come to terms with being a caregiver now. And that was difficult for me because I was used to what me and him had.
Right.
So when I got some help for myself, when I got some support for myself, it was easier for me to come to grips with what was happening to him. I remember my therapist, I was talking to her about some things and she just stood back and she looked at me and she was like, Faith, he's sick. And I was like, oh, okay.
So that's good because you're pointing out that you went to go and see a therapist, right?
Yeah.
Prior to that, had you seen a therapist before?
I don't know. When I was in boot camp, I went to see the chaplain for some things, but it wasn't in regards to that because I wasn't married and everything like that.
Right.
So
And my thought was like, for a person who may not have ever sought out therapy before, right? But now find themselves in a situation that is becoming a strain on their mental, right?
yes.
To make the determination that maybe therapy might be the option. I think oftentimes caregivers don't think of therapy as an option because they're so used to the idea that they're there to give help and assistance to the other person. They're not thinking about the fact that maybe they might need some assistance so that they can better serve and be there for their loved one or that person that they're caring for. So I'm curious as to how you made that decision to go and seek out therapy.
So several things.
Okay.
Several things. I was functional, meaning I was able to work and I was able to still take care of him. But there were other things in my life that was just emotionally, I was just crumbling.
Okay.
Emotionally. And so as a caregiver, I think sometimes one of the things that kept me from seeing a therapist or going to a support group was I didn't want to complain about what I was experiencing with my husband because I felt guilty about that.
Wow.
How dare I complain about anything when he's the one who lost his vision?
Right.
He's the one who can't drive.
Right.
What the hell am I thinking? You know what I'm saying? So that also prevented me from seeking help for myself because I didn't think that I deserved it, which stemmed from a lot of other stuff in my life where I didn't think that I was worthy of help. You know what I'm saying? So, but as I began to keep crying and crying and crying and crying, then you start to think something wrong.
Right.
Yes, I can go to work. Yes, I'm successful at work. Yes, I keep getting these promotions. Yes, I'm getting my degree. You know what I'm saying? But emotionally, something's wrong, and I shouldn't feel this way. And so that's one of the things that got me into therapy to deal with support.
And the interesting thing is, too, Faith, so I was a caregiver for both of my parents when they were sick, right? And so when I cared for my mother, she was stubborn in a way, right? But she also was she didn't want to be a burden, right? So it was actually, I don't know how to say it. I'm blessed to have had the time to have served as her caregiver. I wouldn't want anyone else to have done that, right? My daddy, on the other hand, he was a mess. Okay, so I don't know if it's because his cancer ended up going up into his brain, right? It spread to his brain. And he started having symptoms that are very similar to someone who has Alzheimer's, to where you have that erratic behavior that just comes out of nowhere, right? And then they're apologizing for it. So I dealt with that with my dad, and literally I remember I had gone to Mexico. And we were on some jet skis, and I was with my ex, and I was on the back of the jet ski, and he's jumping the waves. And honey child, I got thrown off the jet ski. Now, mind you, y'all, this is gonna be kind of funny. I had on a wig.
Oh no!
But I had it tied on with a scarf, so I thought it was okay. Okay, because I had my wear around the city wig, and then I had my going in the water wig. Okay, so I just switched them out. Well, y'all, I tried to hold on to that wig when I got thrown off of that jet ski. Went up in the air, and I hit the water so hard, okay? Still trying to hold on to that darn wig. Now, I ended up having a hairline fracture or fracture on my rib cage. And I was in so much pain. Get back to Jacksonville, right? Or get back to Orlando after this trip. As soon as I get back into the state, I turn on my phone. I got all these messages. My father is at the hospital. He had a seizure. I go to the hospital, and I find out that, I'm going to have to care for him. He can no longer be caring for himself. So I have to then come to Jacksonville. I'm taking care of my dad, who's a big guy, and I have this fractured rib. Okay. I thought I was going to die. I was supposed to be taking a medication to help me with the pain. I couldn't take the medication to fall asleep that deep because you guys, at like 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, never failed. He would wake up in the middle of the night and he'd wander out. And I mean, he would go knocking on people's doors and things like that. And this was not my dad. This is just the sickness happening at that point. Yeah, so I found myself crying a lot. Okay. And the dynamic of my family is I'm my father's only child. So my mom had my older brother pretty young. She then married my dad. They had me. Eventually, when I was in high school, my parents divorced. And then when I was going off to college, my mom was in a relationship with my little brother's dad and had him. So I was my father's only child. And I was the only person who was willing to be out there in St. Mary's, Georgia, caring for him. Yeah. And the burden, because, you know, we'll call it that, of being that only caregiver, taking care of somebody day in and day out with no relief is a hell of a lot, right?
Yep.
And then when they're stubborn, they don't want to do what the doctor says. You're arguing with them because you want to keep them healthy. You want to save their lives. You want to keep them here, right? Mm-hmm. And so you're stressed with that, and then caring for them, and then trying to also care for yourself. I am so thankful that you chose therapy. I couldn't even find the time to do therapy. So think about that as well, too, because I'm sure a lot of people struggle with that. Like, where do they find a break to even care for themselves? What were you able to do, and how were you able to do that?
So I'm Jamal's only caregiver as well, although he is neurologically functional, you know, right. So I will say that. So this is what I would highly suggest for people. I understand what I would do, but my situation may be different from everybody else's situation. So I would highly suggest that you go online. As far as therapy is concerned, well, okay, you need a break to go to therapy. Okay. So go online, Google caregiver websites, right? There's AARP, there's care.com, there's caregiver.com, and you have to learn how to ask for support. Yeah. You cannot do this by yourself.
Yeah.
You just can't. You cannot. So I understand how sometimes we think we don't have time. We have to make time.
Yes.
Have to make time. Even if that means asking someone, hey, for this weekend, can you come down, take care of him just for the weekend, and then I can go do whatever I need to do, including therapy, right? There's some therapists who do work on the weekends for these reasons.
Okay.
Yeah, there are a lot of therapists that work on weekends that does evening services as well.
Yes.
So look into that. Secondly, I know sometimes caring for a loved one can be financially straining, right? So you can look into there's a site called Open Path Collective, and it's for openpathcollective.com. And there are therapists on there who graciously will do therapy for like $40 to $80, right? So you can get one therapy session for $40, you know. Also on opencounseling.com, the same thing.
Okay, opencounseling.com.
Yes, the same thing. So, you know, it's really, we have to, and it takes a lot. It took me years to go to therapy. It took me years to deal with my own stuff.
Yeah.
And we have to change our mindset about ourselves first. We have to. We will not be able to productively care for the people that we love if we're not caring for ourselves. And there was an incident that I'm sorry.
No, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
There was a So Jamal was newly diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. And I went out of town for a women's conference, right? And while I was out of town, he had a flare up, had to go to the hospital. He used to like have to do these steroid treatments, and like it was bad. Like it was bad, right? My family was taking care of him at the time. They were helping me, at the time, and made sure he got to the hospital. We hadn't gotten VA stuff worked out yet, so everything was coming out of pocket, and so forth and so forth. And from that moment on, I felt so guilty for taking care of myself, because I had coupled the thought of, if I leave, something bad happens and I can't be there to support him. I mean, so for years, I did not go anywhere. I did not travel with anyone if Jamal could not go. For years, I did that. And that was draining. It was draining. So now I'm at the point, of course, where I do take trips by myself, but we have a caregiver come in, stay with Jamal for the weekend, so I can go out of town and just take care of myself. Or sometimes I'll do a staycation. I'll stay in Atlanta and, just have a self-care weekend. Oh, the mic's off.
I love that. The idea of doing a staycation by yourself, away from family and those that you're caregiving. I never even thought about that. And I think sometimes we might think of getting someone to come over to help just so we can go and run errands or do tasks that are necessary. But we have to make sure that we are actually taking time just for replenishment in our own selves, right? Mm-hmm. What are some things as well too that you will give as advice for people to deal with when they have a spouse or a loved one that they're caring for, when they are extremely stubborn?
Yeah, so Jamal was extremely stubborn. He was extremely, oh my God, he was. But again, so this is what I want to say, and this is what I wish someone would have told me. You have to let your loved one know that you understand that they're grieving right now, that you understand that they're going through a hard time right now, that you care about them and that you love them, right? My mistake was I didn't acknowledge any of that. It was like, this is just what you need to do, bruh. Right. Like, come on, get with it, And he did not respond to that, because he, as wise as he is, he's very stuck in his ways as well. And that's for good things and bad things. You know what I'm saying? What Jamal believes, he believes, period. Mm-hmm. Right? So one of the things that I did by the time I had started going to therapy and dealing with myself and stuff like that was I told him, you know what? I understand that this is a really difficult thing for you to do. Like, I cannot imagine what it's like being in your shoes right now. But what I want you to know is that I need you. Yes. And if you don't want to do this for you, I get it. Can you please do this for me? Yes. Because I will be devastated if I were to walk in the house and you fell and bust your head and I wasn't there to help you. I wasn't there to pick you up, or I wasn't there to call 911 because you fall and bust your head. Yeah. It's over. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know how to live with myself if I didn't do everything that I could to help you. So if you don't want to do this for yourself, would you please consider doing it for me? Absolutely. And something else, and kind of how you were explaining how he feels and kind of how you responded. I think this is a great opportunity to share the difference between showing empathy versus showing sympathy. Yeah.
in how that affects that person who you're caring for, because they don't want to feel anyone's sympathy, right? But to let them know that you feel their pain, and you see them, right? That's extremely, extremely important for anyone who is going through any level of sickness or change in condition, because their battle is huge. They are dealing with the complete transition in their life and seeing themselves in a way that they never even imagined. And that's an obstacle all in itself, right? So it's definitely really important to differentiate between those two, and to check our actions as to where we're reacting.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's really important that as caregivers, right? And I want to bring up Miss Miriam's post here. She said she was the caregiver for her mom with dementia for 3 years. And she was happy when she found out she could actually put her in adult daycare for a couple hours a week. And that let her breathe. And when you know that there is that opportunity where you are going to get a breath, you have something to look forward to, right?
Yes.
Really, really, really important. And that doesn't make you any less of a daughter or wife or mother or whatever it might be. That just means that you're trying to put your best foot forward to care for that person who you love, because, before you can pour into someone else or take care of someone else, who do you have to first take care of? Right? Yourself. So definitely solid points.
Good for you, Miriam. I'm proud of you for doing that. That's really difficult for people to do. Good for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And then I know one other thing that you were saying was give yourself permission to live despite your circumstance. Can you elaborate more on that?
Just going back to, I wouldn't take any trips. I wouldn't go anywhere unless I was with Jamal. I wouldn't do any of that. I didn't know how to live outside of him because I didn't think I deserved it. Right? Going back to mindset. I'm really big on mindset, just in case you guys haven't figured that out, right? Because our mindset can impact our self-esteem. It can impact how we connect with people, and it can also impact how we move in this world, right? So you have to define what living means to you. Living may be something different to someone else, right? But to you, living may mean, putting your, loved one in an adult daycare.
Right.
That's living, baby. Like, you have to redefine that for yourself. You can't let anybody else define what living means. And so Jamal and I, we went out of town because he participated in an anthology. And he's a brilliant writer. And someone who was at the book signing came up to me, and she noticed that I was taking care of him, And she came up to me. She's older than me, of course. And this happened probably about 3 years ago.
Okay.
And she said, I just asked me, how I was doing, and how long we've been married, so forth and so forth. And then she was just like, okay. She was like, so, you need to take care of yourself.
Wow.
And I'm looking like, first of all, I want to say, Trick, you don't know me.
Not Trick.
All up in my business. But I can tell, from her wisdom, that she can see.
Yes.
As you called it so eloquently, the burden that was on me. And she told me, she said, you know what I do to take care of myself? I said, well, what do you do? And she said, once a month, I go out of town. And I was like, oh my God. Once a month? Where do you go?
Right?
She said, anywhere I want to go.
Wow.
I said, well, what you do with your husband? Because her husband had a stroke, and he also has some neurological impairment.
Okay.
And so, and has some trouble walking and stuff like that. And he also has some other stuff from the military because he was also a veteran. And I said, well, who do you have? Like, who takes care of him? And she said, I'll call up this caregiver place, with the money that we get from the VA. And this is what I do. And I'm just like, but like, do you trust them? Like, what's going on? Like, so I asked her all these questions, and she, in so many words, gave me permission to live. She let me know that it's okay to, you know, have a life outside of being a caregiver.
Mm-hmm.
That it's okay to, you know, let my husband stay home with someone who is caring, who has his back just as much as I do.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Who is not disrespectful towards him or anything like that. You know what I'm saying? I make sure the people that are in my space and in my husband's space are quality people, right? So it's okay to do that and live. And I still like to travel. So just because my husband has MS doesn't mean that I don't get to travel anymore. And it doesn't mean that he has to stop traveling too.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I had to redefine what living meant to me as a caregiver and being Jamal's only caregiver at the time.
Absolutely. And then when you think about it too, we were talking at the beginning of this conversation about technology and arts come, right? So now, like, you know, even from my phone, because of all of the Ring cameras and things, I can watch who comes to my door and what happens in my house, right? Yeah. So we now have the ability to be able to leave and disconnect, and know that we can see what's going on in our space. So you have that now as an extra layer of comfort. And then knowing that that partner can actually reach out to you and let you know what's going on. So we have to, like you said, give ourselves permission to really live and not worry so much. It's so important, because otherwise they're gonna have to turn around and take care of us, right?
Right. Or we won't be around to take care of them. I can't imagine not being here.
Yeah.
I cannot imagine not being here to take care of I cannot, even just thinking about it now just makes me want to cry. I cannot, I don't want to imagine it. So it's really important for me to take care of myself. And listen, Jamal is very, you know, he is, he's very honest about who he wants to take care of him. Right? We done fired a couple people. You know what I'm saying? Jamal, I come back, he's like, yeah, I don't like her.
Okay. I'm sorry to cut you off there. There's something that's really important that we have to talk about, right? Sure. Because one of the things that I admire so much about your relationship is that never at any point, because I think sometimes when a person, especially if they're thinking about taking care of their husband, and they're doing all of these tasks and things for them, you can begin to maybe demasculinate them, right? And I never have seen you do that. You have all, like, I remember we were on the phone one time and I was like, who's your cell phone provider? You were like, oh, I don't know. Babe, who's our cell phone carrier? I'm like, you don't handle that? No, he handles all of that. I was like, oh, so he does handle a lot.
Yes, he does.
Well, too.
Yes, he does. Yes, because he still has a functional brain.
Yes.
And he still have body parts that are able to move. So I'm going to need you to get with, sir. Right?
It's PG rated and not going to death on that.
We won't do that. We won't do that. But, you know, we got hands that can pick up a phone and dial a phone number to Verizon. We know how to use a laptop. You know what I'm saying? I can't. And this is where, you know, I have to let him have some independence.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? I can't treat him like a little boy.
Yeah.
What if he didn't have MS, I wouldn't be treating him that way. If he didn't have MS, I will be expecting him to contribute to this household as much as I am contributing to this household. Absolutely. So now that he has MS, okay, I get you have MS. You probably can't. He can't put oil in. Well, he can't do that. Dang, what can't he do? You know, he can't like get under my car and, you know, fix the car anymore. But guess what he can do? He can call somebody to do it.
Absolutely.
Right. So we still have that connection to where that, yes, I take care of him, but he also takes care of me.
Absolutely.
And that's where the respect come in at.
Yeah. But the fact that you take time and you think about that as you operate, to me has just always been so admirable. And it's a reminder to me to make sure that I'm cognizant of what that other person brings to the table and not to always be thinking about what it is that I'm having to do.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's amazing. And I know we're getting close to wrapping up, but one of the things that I want to talk about too is, and it's completely outside of the whole caregiver piece.
Sure.
It's about when I want to talk about your project that you have going on right now too, for those who might be watching. But I also wanted to talk about the amazing podcast that you have, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I know right now it's on a temporary hold. Right?
Yeah, the season is over. The season will be back.
Okay.
But the season has ended. Last season has ended. Yes.
Yes. Well, one of the things that I will say to all of you, if you have not watched the For Love Only or listened to the For Love Only podcast, we should be saying that watch. At some point, we're going to put that into the atmosphere. It is going to be something that will be on national syndicated television to watch.
I don't know why y'all be speaking that on me, because everybody want this to be on TV or the internet. I'm like, I'm good with a podcast now. Can we just keep establishing that, please?
You're beautiful and you look great on camera. So let's just put it out there, right?
Okay.
I feel like, and I don't even know if you realize it, how impactful what you do on your podcast really is. You are helping so many people. And it was to the point to where, like, I was like, girl, have you listened to For Love Only podcast? Have you listened to For Love Only podcast? No, you need to listen to For Love Only podcast. Like, that's how I was putting it out there.
Yeah.
And I would laugh. I would be in deep thought about myself. There was times when I literally had to go and make my chocolate martini and sit back and listen to it. So that's the kind of level of goodness that this is. But last year, when I was trying to figure out how to make my next move and to leave, I was trying to leave from a relationship, right? That was over, but needing to like fully absolve myself from it. I listened to your podcast one day as I was driving, and I was like, oh shoot, she's talking about me. And when I tell you that didn't feel good, no, you weren't literally talking about me.
Right.
I recognized myself in what you were saying. And I believe Jamal might have even been on the episode. You guys were doing this series where you were talking about your relationship and the things that you had learned. And I think you were talking about the boundaries that you had set in the relationship, and you had your deal breakers.
Yes,
and point blank period, if he violated those things, it was done.
We're done.
It was done. And he respected you so much because you did not, bend any of those.
Right.
And I was like, you know what? I bend it. I definitely did a bend. And that was what the problem was. And I knew it was time for me to go ahead and walk away from that. And I think it's so important sometimes that you not be talking to, right? But you can just hear it. And so I think maybe if somebody else, like a friend, might have been saying this to me, I probably wouldn't have taken it to the level that I did that day. But because I was listening to you having this conversation with your husband and you guys were sharing that, it had such a deep impact. And I literally stopped on the side of the road. I tell you no lie. I pulled over on the side of the road. I think I was coming from my girlfriend's house who lives in the boonies. And I emailed my attorney.
Woo!
We have got to move on this. Like, I need to move forward with whatever needs to happen to completely part ways. And it was your podcast. And so I don't think sometimes people realize the power of what they're doing, because oftentimes I think when we're creating something as amazing as you are, it takes a lot of work. It's a hell of a lot of work. And you may not receive all of the kudos and accolades while you're doing it. And so sometimes it may seem like it's very daunting and you're not getting what you need from it. But let me tell you, honey, okay, because if I had $100,000 check to write you, I would have given it, because that is the level of sanity that I was able to get back.
Wow.
I just want to thank you for that. And I want to encourage anyone who may not have had the opportunity to listen to your podcast to definitely look that up on, I think iTunes is where I follow it at.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's on, maybe, is it on SoundCloud? Spotify.
And Podbean.
Yeah.
iTunes. Yeah.
And there's plenty there for you guys to play back and listen
to.
Any place of where you are right now. So DEEVA, also let us know about, because listen, somebody is working on their PhD, honey. PhD.
Yeah.
So can you talk to everyone about your research project that you're working on right now?
Yeah, so I just want to back up just a little bit. Thank you for sharing that with me. You never shared that with me. No. I want to get off this thing and cry. Oh my gosh, that's so impactful. It's so interesting that you said that. Somebody just texted me today.
Yeah.
And I just want to see Richie what she said, because it was right in lines with what she said. She said, good morning. You know what she calls me? She calls me Love Bug. Good morning, Love Bug. She said, your voice is filling my room right now, listening to your podcast and checking myself.
Is that me?
So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yes, I am at the end of my PhD. I'm actually working on my dissertation right now, and I'm in the research part. So I am currently looking for participants. Actually, I'm filled up. The first group I'm filled up, and I'm still looking for licensed marriage and family therapists. So the dissertation is about Black American women who have experience with who have experience with the lack of emotional support from their romantic partner. Mm-hmm. And so that's all I want to say about it for right now. Okay. But I am still looking for licensed marriage and family therapists who have worked with women who did not receive emotional support from their romantic partners, and have some tools on how to improve their situation. Because we're talking about, if you guys listen to my podcast, I am solution focused. I'm like, okay, let's get with this. Let's, improve our mindset, and let's get some solutions down. So the dissertation is going to be all about solutions and mindset. So at the end, when I actually defend my dissertation, I'm going to be able to do a free online class and let everybody get in on the results from the dissertation and my findings. And so I'm really excited about that. And thank you all so much for your support. Arlene, thank you for advertising for me as well.
And I have a question. I want to make sure that I clarify for you too. Yeah. So being that you are now looking for the licensed therapist here, mm-hmm. I know you have a target demographic of the participants for the study, mm-hmm. but are you looking for basically anyone who is a licensed, make sure I say it right, it's a licensed, is it
licensed marriage and family therapist
of any ethnicity, right?
Any ethnicity.
Demographic, as long as they are working with your target participant of
Black American heterosexual women.
Okay.
Yes. Perfect. It can be of any race. The LMFTs can be of any race, but they have to have some type of multicultural training. Some experience with multicultural counseling.
Gotcha. So I want to make sure I clarify that, because there could definitely be some persons who might think that they may not fit what you're looking for, and they could very well
absolutely
fit, right? So just clarify that. Absolutely.
Yeah, I just got off from a training with a woman who's Korean American, and majority of her clientele are people of color. So
wow, I love it.
Yeah.
Love it. I love it. I love it. Well, Diva, let me just say, one, you guys, just so you know, typically when Faith and I get on the phone, the conversations don't end in 45 minutes. So let me put our horns, because I'm very proud of us right now, even though we're 5 minutes over, 4 minutes over. Listen, we did good. We did good. This is not typical, right?
Yeah. I'm proud of us too, friend. This is good.
We're like, I got things to do. We'll be on the phone for 2-3 hours. If it's like 1 o'clock in the morning, I'm like, oh no, I got to go.
Right.
Right. Let me just say thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and not charging us $140 for this call.
Of course not.
I'm just playing, the therapy rate, right? So thank you so much for hopping on and sharing your wisdom and your expertise with your fellow divas. So very thankful to have you as part of the organization. You bring such amazingness to the group. And then also for all of our divapreneurs, for Women on the Rise, if you have not met Faith before, this is her, because she hosts the Wednesday Mastermind and for our divapreneurs. So all of you guys should have received that email and can sign up. And if you're not a member of Women on the Rise International Incorporated, we do host once a month masterminds on Sundays where I host, and then on Wednesdays where Faith hosts. So we hope that you'll consider becoming part of our organization and perhaps participating on that particular level. Other than that, you guys, I want to say thank you for joining DEEVA Chat here this Tuesday evening. We'll be back on Thursday evening with fellow diva Candy Bryan. And have a great rest of your week until then. Bye, everybody. Yes, ma'am.